Today on Cherry Picking, we're fixing up this old truck topper to go camping with. And I show you a vintage camping setup that we're gonna take on the Diff Duncan Jamboree. Let's get into it. So, in preparation for this camping trip that we're going on with my 67 F250, we're going out to Gorman, Hungry Valley, and we got to prepare the truck to go out there. One of the things we're doing is we have to prepare this 67 F250 to go camping. Now, it's a great rig, and wish I could paint it, but I don't have the time. But one of the things we want to do is have a place to sleep. And I could go tent camping, but instead, I got this guy. I've got this camper shell. Now this camper shell is probably circa, I don't know, 1973 or 4. Maybe even a little bit later, could be 80s. Not sure, but I got this camper shell probably about a year ago now for free out in Yucca Valley. Guy just wanted it gone, and I've been looking for a truck topper for my truck. And this isn't exactly the style that I want to go for. I'd rather have a gem top or something like that. But until my truck is a 4x4 and painted, and you know, until I actually have that whole process dealt with, this will work for shelter. So today we're actually going to go ahead and take this camper shell, this truck topper, got to get it off of here and put it on my truck over there. But we're going to go ahead and kind of do a light restoration on this thing. Really, we're just going to spray it down. And really, we're just going to spray it down and clean it because it's kind of just been sitting for a long time, and it's been sitting under this tree for about a year now on this bed, being used as storage for parts and chemicals and stuff like that. But as you can see, it's actually an aluminum encased, non-insulated truck topper. But all of the wiring for the lights has been cut. So we're going to replace all that wiring. We're gonna go ahead and clean this thing up. I'm probably gonna even paint this thing because it used to be white and someone painted it beige. And beige is kind of gross, so we'll probably just paint this upper section, maybe get crazy, paint the lower section, don't know. But one of the neat things about this topper is that it's actually, it's got a glass window in it, which, you know, could be a problem going off-roading, but it's actually extra tall. I don't know if you can tell, but it sits probably about 6 or 7 inches higher than the top of the truck. So there's a little bit more sitting room inside, which will make it pretty good for a summertime tent shelter, pretty much, for truck camping. So let's get this thing off, put it on my truck, take it out front. We're gonna wash it up. Actually, we're probably gonna make some loads first because I actually have to move some stuff. So this thing will get its use real quick. Then we'll wash it and make it look nice and fix all the wiring. So. All right, up. Oh yeah, let me show you this. Scored this a few weeks ago. C7RA Rotunda reflector set for a 67 Ford vehicle. How neat is that? 2 folding bikes. This doesn't break, I believe. I definitely did forget. Let's take it out back. All right, well, the wind wind is picking up. So we're gonna wash this thing and just get it a little bit less dusty and dirty. I have not washed it since I've gotten it, and it shows. So let's spray it down. All right, all nice and clean, kind of, close enough. It was really dirty. It's still dirty, but it's better than it was. All right, well, this thing's washed out and it's kind of clean for the most part. So we're moving on. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing wired up because that's really the last important thing to getting this thing nice again. I do kind of want to paint the sides, but we'll see if we get there or not. But we do need to wire it. And so I've got some 14 gauge wire here. And I chose 14 gauge because I'm pretty sure that's what's already up here. Could be 16, who knows. Now, these wires, at first I thought they were cut off, but after looking at them a little bit more, they're all matching in the way that they are stripped. So I actually think that they were never hooked up. I just think that these are how the lights came from the factory and they screwed them on, and it was up to the owner to wire it up, and the last owner, I guess, just never did, because they're all the same length and they all have the same amount of stripping on the end. Anyways, what we're gonna do is probably not the right thing, but the way that we're gonna do it. And I've got some wire strippers here, and we're pretty much just going to cut a little bit of a line and run one big piece of wire front to back and basically strip the wire back. And then we're going to go ahead and basically pull the insulation forward or backward, whichever way we start from. Basically wrap the old wire around this, solder it up, and then throw some tape on it. And we're going to basically connect every single light to each other. So, might not be the right way, but it's the way we're doing it. So let's go ahead and throw up the time lapse of doing a bunch of wires. Luckily, there's not that many. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total. So it should go by pretty quick, but let's get into it. All right, so I've got this whole thing wired up now, and let me show it to you. So as you can see, there's just a wire running across the top on each side, and then it goes across here and joins up right there, and then comes down here, and I actually just made a bullet connector situation that hooks directly into the tail light. I have a bullet connector that hooks it directly into the tail light, and I actually didn't have to cut or splice any wires. I just took some 2-prong forward connectors and basically made an in-between that had one that went off to power cab lights, or whatever you want to call them. So let's go ahead and close this guy and turn it on. Now I know it works because I already tested it, and I had to fix a few of the bulb grounds. But if we turn our parking lights on, and this one might still, yeah, this one, oh, there it goes. I don't know if you can see that, but it is lit up. The back one here is lit up. Those 3 are lit up. I didn't have to touch those. And then this side's lit up, which obviously this is going to be much better at nighttime-esque. The wind is picking up right now, but I'm going to go ahead and keep working on some other things. I've got to fix the bumper mount for the mini bike, and yeah, we'll just keep chugging along. All right, so let's talk for a minute. I'm not going to get to painting this thing. It's just not going to happen in time. I don't have the materials and the time and the energy to stripe it out, paint it without any overspray and all that before this camping trip. So we're going to move on, and I'm just going to talk to you for a minute about what we're actually going to take on this Diff Duncan Jamboree 4x4 off-road rally. Now, unfortunately, as I've mentioned before, I'm not in a 4x4 truck. This is a simple 2-wheel drive truck. However, we can still be in spirit of the event with all of our vintage camping equipment. So let's talk about it. I've kind of broken it up into a few different sections. So this is how I have it laid out as of right now. We've got simple recovery gear, it's way down there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then we've got the basics of food, shelter, water, leisure, and then basic road trip equipment. Let's talk about those. We'll start with the road trip equipment. First things first, we don't want to break down. If we do happen to break down, we want to be able to fix what we need to or be able to limp ourselves wherever we need to go. So the things in that are going to include a impact to change my tires out. I got a spare tire under this thing, and that's basically all I'm going to run power-wise, is that one impact with a 13/16 impact socket, so that I can change a wheel if I need to. No big deal. We do have a jack, but we'll talk about that in recovery gear. I've got my basic toolkit. No toolbox, but I got my roll, and this has basically every single tool that I will ever need to fix almost anything on this truck. So that's what's in there. And then most importantly, which I don't have everything here, but you get the point, fluids. We've got oil, we've got antifreeze and coolant, water, pretty much everything we need to top up, power steering fluid, So we'll have all those things. That's our basic road tripping gear for the most part. Plus, we've got some jumper cables that are in the cab, as well as ratcheting tie downs and stuff like that. Anything you would take on any long road trip. I also will have my little air compressor to fill up tires when people lower them down. But that's in our section of basic road tripping gear. Next up, let's move on to the food section, the food and water, so to speak. So if you look over here, I've got myself a vintage Coleman cooler. Now this is a cooler I actually received pretty recently from my grandfather after he passed, and my family knows me to be pretty into vintage gear, and I have a bunch of different old coolers, but this one, because it was my grandfather's, kind of means a lot. Plus it kind of fits the theme because the other coolers I have don't. So got this nice green Coleman cooler. Don't even know what date it is. Actually I can check. This one is a 66. So that is a 66 date code cooler, which makes it perfect for our vintage camping trip. Next up, we've got our Coleman water jug. I will be taking packs of waters because, I'm smart. But I've also got that Coleman water jug that I will fill up full of ice and water. This is going to be 2 to 3 days of camping, and that little jug is really not enough for everything, so I'll have other water jugs with me. But that'll be the main one that I feed because I'll have it full of ice, and those things stay cool for a long time. That one I think is actually dated 76. It's one of the later ones that I have, but it fit the green theme, so I kept it in there because the other Coleman jug I have is blue, so it matches my wagon and not my green truck. So basically, food will be stored in our cooler, water will be stored in our jug, and then moving on to the rest of the food and water portion is our camping essentials. We've got ourselves a stove. Now, you don't have to bring a stove to this event. I know that they're going to have stoves and offer to cook for other people, but I have the equipment. I'm going to bring my own. So I've got this awesome diamond stove. I don't actually remember what date code this thing is. I know it's pretty early. It's probably 62, 61 maybe. We're going to hope that it works well. The tank doesn't seem to hold pressure, but I've got a bunch of other stoves. So I'm just going to do a swip swap, and this guy will be on the road, hopefully, because there's really not much to these. These are very, very simple, and really the stove that contains the generator is kind of the only thing that needs to work right. So we're taking our Coleman stove so that I can cook. Along those lines, we're going to be taking good old cast iron skillet. This is a small one, only an 8-inch, but really it's probably all I need. I will take some other cooking equipment. I'll have a patrol box. It's just not in here right now. It's kind of big and bulky, but it will have all of the cooking utensils and everything that I may need to cook, to clean, to all that sort of stuff. And as you can see right here, we've also got a little portable mess kit that is a nice old aluminum unit. I gotta wash it. A lot of this stuff hasn't either been used in a long time or used at all in my possession, so we're gonna be taking care of all those things. So that kind of covers the food and water portion. So we've got our road tripping, our food and water, then we've got our recovery gear, which we'll go over after, and next up is pretty much other basic camping gear. We'll just talk about some stuff simple. If you're going to go on any sort of camping trip, you want to make sure you have plastic bags for trash, or any sort of trash container. Kind of the rules of camping is leave no trace, so we're going to make sure we have tons of bags and everything to bag up, because basically you pack in, you pack out. We want to make sure that we leave no trace and keep our parks as well as our trails as clean as we found them, if not better. That's kind of how we do it around here, and that's how you should do it. So when you go camping, think about it. Next up, we have ourselves a good old Coleman lantern. That's going to be our main source of light. This is an old vintage flashlight that I have. It needs new batteries. But it's great. It works. And it's even a Ranger model, so it kind of matches my F-250 Ranger. That Coleman lantern will do 99% of what we need to. Modern light really doesn't go as well as the old lanterns. The white gas, camp fuel, you may call it, that burns is, one, extremely clean, cleaner than propane even, and two, the actual luminance of the light is much better than modern LED equivalents, and modern lanterns just don't give the same vibe. We're going for the vibe. In case you're wondering, that is a 1963, I believe, Model 220E. That's like the most ubiquitous Coleman lantern there is. It's, besides the 200 series, it's kind of the lantern, dual mantle, simple. Every American in 1960 through 1970 had one of those. So they're really easy to get. If you want to get one, they're pretty easy to find. Just look on your local Facebook Marketplace or wherever. I'm sure you'll find one. This is a good model. It needs to be restored. Check valve is not perfect, but it works, holds pressure well, and the generator is in good shape. So it'll work for our purposes. Moving on with the camping accessories, I think the next most important thing we have up there is a knife. I'm going to have multiple because you never know when you need a knife, and a good sharp knife is always good to have, especially on a camping trip. It's one of your 10 essentials. Also, this is more of a just-in-case item. I'm going to take this little hatchet. It's kind of a long handle hatchet, so I guess you'd call it an axe, but it's pretty small. This is more of a in case we do need to break some trees or cut some firewood or something like that. Who knows? Or, you know, in case Jason Voorhees decides to show up in the middle of the night, you got to have something to give the next 4 sequels. Anyways, moving on from the camping stuff, we've kind of stepped into the shelter realm. So what are we doing for shelter? Well, shelter is this shell, really. That's why it's a shelter. That's really why we're doing this, is we are car camping in all sense of the term. Now, some people, I know for a fact the guy putting this on, Ethan, actually made a kind of full bed platform foam pad to sleep on, and that's great. I happen to have these good old military cots, which you've been probably staring at for the past 5 minutes. I've used these cots pretty much for the past 15 to 16 years. That's basically all that my father and I and my brother have used whenever we go camping or car camping or anything like that. These things get more use than almost anything else we use. They work. They haven't broken down on us. We have parts for them, and it fits perfectly inside the truck here because it's an 8-foot bed, so it fits just fine. It's very comfortable, and it'll be nice. Also on the shelter, I will have some blankets and pillows, and I've got a blanket up there. And more importantly, we'll have ourselves a sleeping bag. I've got to sit off of it. This is just a sleeping bag system, another military sleeping bag system. It's a 3-tier system. There's an outer layer that you can use by itself, and then there's an inner layer and an even more inner layer for like super sub-zero temps. I'm not expecting it to be cold at all because it's going to be in the desert in May. So it's going to be hot, and I may not even use a sleeping bag, but we're going to take it because be prepared. And that pretty much covers our shelter. I guess the only other thing for shelter is we're going to have a nice big hat, you know, keep the sun off us and pretty much relax. Lastly and most importantly, second to lastly and most importantly, leisure. When you go camping, there's a lot of time on your hands. I'm sure you know, unless you're actively doing something, hiking or fishing or whatever. But around camp, there's normally a lot of time on your hands to do stuff or to do nothing. And so we got to make sure we're covered in the leisure department. So for that, first things first, a good old chair. One thing I liked about this camper shell is that I can sit in a full-size chair comfortably and my head does not hit the shell. It's close, but I've got 2 inches, give or take, from the top of the shell. In a normal sized camper shell, I would not be able to do this. I could not sit up comfortably in here. So this is nice because I can sit on my chair, I can sit on my cot, not bang my head around. I have a second one just in case. These are old Zip-D chairs. They're great. They're super comfortable. They fold up completely flat. And honestly, I don't know why they stopped making them. And they have cool colorways, which is super important because remember, we're here for the vibe. Next up in the leisure department, we have a table. Because how leisurely is that? But we have a table, we need to set a stove on, we need to set, you know, drinks, stuff, I don't know, anything really. We got to set stuff on a table. So I've got an old vintage card table. I don't know where my other camping tables are, so we're taking that one. It's a 1930s Samsonite table, and it kind of folds funky, but it goes mostly flat. That covers the table. And lastly, for leisure, we've got actually two things. One, always have good sets of cards on you. You always would have cards when you're camping. It's like the only time I get to actually, 69 Camaro. Pretty nice. Kind of in the same shape as my Mustang, but it's red. Bet that guy wants to race. Got yourself a dime there, bud. He knows. Anyways, cards. I take more than one pack. You'll never guess why. And I've got some old, again, vintage cards. These ones I can't show you on YouTube. And these ones are just nice, beautiful sights of California. And that's actually 3 packs, technically, but who's counting? Anyways, last thing on the leisure list, we got ourselves a good old radio. I've had this puppy for, God, almost 10 years now, and it's awesome. It needs new batteries, but it worked great when I used it. It's kind of been sitting for a while now. It's just a good old GE, probably 1972 or 3 or something. Now, I'd love to have myself a Philco Ford radio, and one day I might get there, but I have this guy, and, well, if we get radio signal, this guy will pick it up. You know, we got all the reach you need. So, anyways, ooh, don't put a hole. That's our little radio. I will be taking that just to have. And that about covers... Oh, actually, there is one more thing that I'm going to add to the leisure list. But I got to go get it, so give me a second. Now, real quick, last thing I'm going to show you is my recovery gear. Not everything is here right now. I actually have to go dig for some stuff. But we're going to call this recovery gear. I've got a high lift off-roading jack. This is going to be what we use in case we get a flat, or if someone else needs to be lifted out, or needs to be lifted if they have a flat or broken something, whatever. Obviously, other guys are going to have one, but I'm going to have my own. Got ourselves a good old jerry can, gas can. Always want to have extra gas, especially when on trails. Going to bring a come along, ratcheting cable system, you know, just good to have. A actual tow strap, which I need to find some shackles for, but in case anyone needs to be pulled, in case I need to be pulled with my 2-wheel drive truck. And then I've also got some axle straps in case, you know, someone doesn't have an actual way to hook a shackle on. We can wrap around the axle and shackle it there. So that's pretty much my recovery gear, minus a shovel, which I do need to find, but I will have a shovel. That's important on off-roading trips. So that's recovery gear. Now, the very last thing I'm actually going to have on my leisure list is this guy. This is a Canon AE-1. It's just a program, so, you know, Canon lovers don't freak out. This is the first film camera I ever got about 10 years ago. I wanted one for a long time, and I got one, and this one was the one I got. Of course, got it, you know, at a swap meet somewhere, and well, it's done me pretty good, and I've had a lot of different cameras over the years, but this was my first film camera. And so, you know, we're going camping with the spirit of vintage and old off-roading and old days of camping, and, you know, just when times were a little bit simpler, I'll say. And I want to make sure I capture those memories on film because it is a hobby of mine, and some people might be rolling their eyes and going, oh, the youth generation always wants to relive what we had. And, well, in some ways that's true. You know, there were periods of time that people long for that they didn't get to live in. Now, obviously, we're in a better time now with plenty of different things. It's sometimes better just to get outdoors, and so that's kind of what we're doing here. And obviously, some people are going to look at this and just think, gosh, what a bunch of posers. And, well, sure, maybe we are. But for a lot of us, this is a hobby. It's a community. It's something other than ourselves, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. You know, this is one of the first car things I've been able to do with other people. I've been around cars my entire life. I've been around the car community a lot, but I've never really been a part of a small group of car people. And I think this is my way into it because it mixes just everything that I'm into, all my hobbies all at once. Camping, vintage stuff, off-roading, and old cars. So that's pretty much it. I'm really excited to go on this trip. I think it's going to be a great time. I want to say thank you to Ethan again for putting this on for the second year in a row. Maybe next year my truck will actually be a 4x4. But this is all the gear behind me. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. You know where to find me. I'm pretty much open to responding to anything, but obviously there's a few things I missed here, but I think I got the gist of it and you got the idea. So, oh, there's one more thing I forgot. One more thing we're bringing that I may have already mentioned, but I guess I should show you. So let's pack all this up and let me show you the very last thing that we're bringing that's really the cherry on top. No pun intended. This thing hasn't even ran in a week and it just started right up. Now, if you look on the front of the truck, you may have seen it throughout this video, but this is my 1969 Powell mini bike. It's called a Powell Challenger. It's an off-road mini bike made in, this one I believe is in 1969, and it was made here in California in Southgate by the Powell Company, which was a family-owned company, and it was made as an off-road mini bike. It was the first of its kind, really, that was meant to be an off-road, full suspension, and it broke down. The seat comes off, the handlebars come off, and you can actually stow it in the trunk of a car. But I'm going to be riding it up like this with these antique motorcycle mounts, and I have it in there, and it's strapped pretty good. This is the first time I've ever actually really strapped it, and we're going to see how it goes. And as you can see, it looks pretty nice. Well, you're going to get to see that next week when we restore this puppy. So keep an eye out for that, because on the next video, we'll be restoring this Powell mini bike, which we are taking to the 2025 Diff Duncan Jamboree. So if you like this video and you want to see more like it, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, do the whole YouTube thing. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and you'll see this all pretty soon. So see you next time.